I'm lost. Two of the scariest words a human can say. But lost in life is also very scary. And we all lose direction and meaning in life every once in a while. When I was in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. In nursing degree, and I knew it was the wrong career. And when 2 businesses of mine failed, I felt lost. And often when you feel lost, you often want to run away from everything. And my husband and I did. We ran away from everything. We walked away from friends, family, successful businesses, a beautiful acreage home, to live in the middle of nowhere in British Columbia. We were a 5-hour drive to the nearest community with stores. We were way, way off grid. There was no power and no cell phone towers for hundreds of kilometers around, and we lived in an uninhabited area. We built an earthship home, and we lived as hunter-gatherers, as our ancestors did. But the scariest moment in time was shortly after we had moved there. I got lost. For 22 hours, alone, lost in the wilderness. What happened was, I was out searching for berries, and I was looking for edible plants, and I was searching the area to get a mental map. And there are no trails where we are, so you're just meandering through the bush, trying to find ways through. And it had gone on several hours, and I started to get this sort of dread feeling like get in my stomach. And then all of a sudden, the realization hit me. I'm lost. I have no idea where I am or what direction to go. And that moment was sheer panic, gut-wrenching terror, and nausea, sweating. And it immediately went into denial and disbelief. This cannot be happening. I'm a wilderness girl. I know what I'm doing. I cannot be lost. This is not real. And then I went into crying and pleading. No, 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 no. As I rapidly searched for clues, my brain needed to find something familiar. And I was scrambling and slipping on rocks, running through the bush. I scratched myself, tried to climb a tree to get some height, and I fell off the tree and I scraped all down the front of me and I hit the ground and I froze. And at that moment, the realization really sunk in. I am truly lost. I am hundreds of kilometers of uninhabited bush, and nobody, not even my husband Dave, knew where I'd gone. That feeling of being lost was terrifying. And I went through all those emotions and eventually got to, in that calm moment, deep breathing, calming myself, gathering my resources, starting to focus, starting to think, and plan and action. I went through, in the next 22 hours that I was lost, thousands of times where I went from absolute sheer panic to calm. And I thought about, how am I going to get out of this? This is what I was in the middle of. There's no direction. I can't find my way through any of this. But I then started to think. I then started to plan. First thing I thought of is, what am I afraid of? I've backpacked, I've hiked, I've backpacked for weeks. I'm a survival expert, I have hiked, I've started fires, I've camped, I've built shelter. What is so different now? Why am I so terrified? And 2 things were different. One, I had absolutely no idea where I was, and your brain cannot manage absolutely not knowing where you are in the world. And secondly, I didn't have a backpack for the first time ever. So I had to think about this as an unplanned adventure and put all of the skills of survival to work. I had to figure out how to save myself. So I thought about, what is the worst case scenario here? And the worst case scenario was that I had an accident or an animal attacked me. And if I was wounded to the point that I could not save myself, I could not move, I could face a long, slow, painful death. Whew. Terrible truth. I acknowledged it, but what am I going to do? The only thing I could do was be hyper aware going forward, super focused on safety and caution, and take action in a way that kept me safe. So I tightened up my boots. I made sure that I couldn't slip or sprain an ankle. I had my knife in my hand, one of the only tools I had. I actually sang and recited TV commercials out loud to create noise, and I moved with purpose. I was stung by wasps at one point where my face swelled up and closed off one of my eyes, and I couldn't let that setback turn me back. So, the next thing I thought of is family. I immediately then thought, I can't do this to them. I can't leave them wondering, worrying, searching for me. I can't have them find me this way. I've got to survive. And I thought of my husband, Dave, the most. He's a search and rescue expert. And I thought about, he knows me well. He knows lost person behavior. He will figure out what will I do and what will he do. He'll figure that out. And so I talked to him through that whole 22 hours. And I never felt alone. And then I thought about, how am I going to, what do I know? I knew that I was between two huge rivers, 50 kilometers apart. I knew that there was, in the west area, a large lake, and in the north, there was a huge forest fire, old burn area. If I could find any of those four places, I figured I could navigate from there. The only other thing I knew was where was the sun. It was late afternoon, and the sun was headed down west. I knew west. So I thought, I'm going to head in that direction towards that lake and river. And I walked for another 4 hours before the sun set. And I pinpointed a mountain way in the distance where the sun went down to go, that is west for tomorrow. And then I made a tiny little leaf shelter. I made a fire. And night fell. And I watched that moon cross the sky. And I didn't sleep one wink. I rested, though, in between moments of panic and self-pity. I was eaten by mosquitoes, black flies, ants. Every sound startled me. And then dawn came. And I started to walk west again. And after a few hours, I found a stream. And that stream was headed in the right direction. And I thought, it's got to be going to this lake or a river. I'll follow it. Sure enough, several hours later, now blisters on my feet, I'm sunburnt, I'm exhausted. At least I have water. Very tired, very hungry. I find that lake. But is this the lake? I don't know if this is the right lake, the one I'd seen on that map, the one to navigate from. Those emotions of doubt and uncertainty stayed with me. But I had to assume it was the right lake. It felt right. So I moved and started to go north. And I used the thick growing moss on the north side of the trees and the rocks to point my direction north. And I moved and walked another several hours, questioning every second. Am I completely screwing myself up more? Am I getting myself more lost? And then slowly, as hours went by, I started to feel like something was familiar. And then I saw a boulder, a significant boulder that looked different, that I went, I know that boulder. And then I know this swamp. This looks like the swamp, fairly close to home. I know where I am. And I started to walk with confidence, and then I saw Dave, and I knew I was safe. And he was way up in a tree with his binoculars, and he had been watching for me. And he had been scanning last night, and he'd seen my fire. And he knew that I was okay for the night. And then he'd been scanning the morning, watching to see if I would send up a distress smoke signal. He didn't see any of that, but in his binocular scanning, at one point, he caught a glimpse of me miles away in a little clearing. And he knew I was moving, and he knew I was on my way. So he didn't need to start tracking me like a search and rescue expert. But I had survived. 22 hours of complete emotional panic. And what I want to say is, if you are lost in the wilderness, just want to pause, what I did is probably not the right thing. What they recommend is that you stay where you are, that you take action to rescue yourself by putting out every signal you possibly can to search and rescuers, and you set up your camp so that you are warm, dry, and hydrated, and stay where you are. But my situation was different. And what Dave pointed out to me when we found each other, and what he had thought through, was lost as a concept in society. If you have somewhere, some time, and some person you need to be meeting up with. And we were living 7 years in the bush as hunter-gatherers. What did time, distance, place matter? just living what society's view of lost was. And what I realized was, what I'd been through, those emotions are exactly what you feel when you are lost in life. It's the same feeling. And how you rescue yourself, how you save yourself from being lost in life and lost in the wilderness, is very similar. You need to gain some reality, put things in perspective. What is similar and different from circumstances I've dealt with before? You have to face what the worst case scenario is and not let it consume you. And take any precaution you can, but move forward. You have to do what you can. Everyone, all of you, has skills and strengths that no matter what situation you end up in, there is something you have that can help you. You need to figure that out and be determined that it will help, that you will be okay. You need to take clear and decisive action, even if you don't feel like it or you have no idea where to go. Start moving. Do something when you are lost in life. Because as soon as you do something, the way will find itself. The way will appear. And reach out to others, whether they're there or not. Worrying about my family kept me motivated. Thinking about Dave made me know I wasn't alone. You are never alone. There is always someone who cares about you and is thinking about you no matter what situation you're in. And then break everything down, your big goal, down into little steps. So when setbacks happen, it's on a little step. And you just redesign what you're doing now to reach that big goal. You don't let setbacks take your spirit away to live, to survive, to find your way. And when you find your way from being lost, and when you find your way back, celebrate. Because you have just built your resilience. You have just built up your I'm okay muscle. And every adversity, every failure, every struggle I've ever been through, I have realized how much it has gained self-confidence for me, self-esteem, and has made, and it will make you a stronger person. Thank you.